And on a personal note, let's see, what have I been up to? I've been playing some games. I finished up Cyberpunk. I did all the side quests there. I finished the main game back in December. I think so. It was over the break, and then I spent the rest of the time doing that. And now I'm back in to Elder Scrolls Online, which is my main go-to in between other things, and especially when like new stuff comes out. So I've been playing some video games. I've been reading some books, similar to the last time we talked. I know what I'm going to play next. There's 2 games on the PC specifically, but I'm waiting because, as I just talked about in the wildlife side of things, which was not wildlife, maybe I'll title that one a nature vlog instead, because it really wasn't wildlife like at all. But anyway, I'm building computers. Really excited for that. Next weekend I will be building computers. That, when all the parts come in, I've been looking forward to that. That was a source of stress for a while, because I decided what I was going to do, and it was just a question of the cost. Trying to wait to see, will prices come down? How much can I afford to pay for this? I always psych myself up about big purchases, or little purchases, or pretty much any purchase. I'm very financially focused over the last few years, because I did not used to be. We'll get more into that in a minute. But it does. It stresses me out, because it's like, could I be using this money elsewhere? And obviously the answer is always yes. I have a lot of debt. I should be paying that off. And I am. I'm working on it. But especially with this kind of stuff, this money was specifically for the contract work. This is extra money I do, extra work I do to get this money to put in. It's a hassle. It's not something I want to do, but I am doing it, and I feel much more justified in using that money for purchases, especially since we've moved here. I don't think before I would split the contract work up, and I'd go, okay, well, I can use half of it, and the other half has to go towards paying off debt or into savings or something along those lines. Since we've moved, it's been more of, I'm going to work my butt off, and then I'm going to use that money to buy myself something that I want, like a new camera body or lenses, or in this case, a bunch of computer components. So I'm really excited to do that. When I build the new one, I'm going to have a computer more dedicated for gaming, and I'm going to be able to plug that up to the TV, and then I'll be gaming there, which is where I prefer to do that, depending on the game. If it's more of a PC directly mouse and keyboard kind of thing, if it's controller, it's probably TV. If it's mouse and keyboard, probably I'll be sitting at the computer desk doing it. But anyway, I'm really excited about that. I'm really looking forward to it. I've got a lot of ideas for what I want to do. I'm trying to do more of instead of just get the cheapest thing I can, I've spent a little bit more on the aesthetic. I want to custom cables, and the color will look nice. We'll see. I've got a bunch of ideas. I'm excited to do that. I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm happy about that. Like I said, I've been playing games. I've been reading, working these last few weeks, since the last 2 weeks since I came back from my break. Software development's going well. I talked about that a little bit, where we've moved on from the training videos to actually hands-on working on the website. So I specifically have been updating old, outdated pages to a more current style, which involves a lot of learning how it currently works, and then kind of going and looking at what we've currently got and copy-pasting some things in and seeing how it can work, and do a lot of layout. It's more CSS than anything, which is the programming language of what a website looks like, not the bare bones function. That's HTML usually, or if it has like what's on the page, the content is HTML, I think. That's usually how it works, the words and stuff like that. If it has a function, like you want it to click a button and you want that, that's JavaScript, or I think we actually use TypeScript. And then how it looks, the layout, the design, the colors, images probably. I don't have anything to really work on that, but that's CSS. So we've been doing more of that, which is what I gravitate towards anyway. I've got a bit of graphic design learning under my belt, all this photography and things like that, Photoshop. So I kind of gravitate more towards the CSS anyway. But yeah, it's been good. It's been going well. It's been the last 2 Fridays in a row, and so it was the same thing both Fridays. It's just on a different section, and I picked it up faster. I was able to work more on my own, whereas the first week it was 8-10 hours of just on a call with the actual software developers as they walk me through this stuff and ask questions, and we talk and things like that. So I had a lot more of my own practice yesterday, and I'm feeling more confident about it. That's really good. It's coming along. I'm picking things up. I still don't know everything, but of course there's no way to know all of it. That's I've heard more than one time that software developers are professional Googlers, because you spend a lot of time going, all right, I think I know what I want. I need to look how to do what I want. And you look up what other people have done and things like that. Because it is, creating something from scratch is just not as efficient as, or maybe you don't know how you want it and you have to go look that up. But anyway, that's going well. I'm quite enjoying the process there. It's better than it was, where I would be bored watching the videos just all day long. I mean, you really do. You spend a whole day just watching a video, following along, things like that. If you got questions, you ask the actual people, but it can be a lot. It can be a whole lot. And only one day a week to learn. And not all the way through the year. We took a break for 6 months at least. So I'm glad we've gotten back to it now here in the winter, and we'll see how much we get done with that stuff. I'm pleased with how it's going. There's been that. There's been at least the last week or two, I have tried to focus more on my mental health than anything, because I've felt a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. There's been a lot of things going on with that, and it's been more on me. I've talked about it before, this kind of self-help program through work, where once a month we meet and read a book and talk about stuff, and that's helped me set goals and acquire, it's a lot of what I've been. I gotta set my goal for this month. I just remembered. I gotta get that done. Maybe I'll do that on Monday. It'll be easier it's easier to record at home it's easier for me to record when no one's around. This is just easier to talk to a camera than when other people are around and you have to worry about involving them or being around them or something like that. I just find it more comfortable to do when no one's around. So if I have the house to myself on Monday, I can record a video. That's easier for me. But anyway, the video I need to record is specifically about picking some birds as goals. That was one of the things, picking goals and things like that. And we talked about making goals and setting them and achievable and things like that. And I think that's what kind of pushed me to doing that for 2022. So now I need to do it for 2023. So anyway, that's been going on. And part of the homework was reading this book. And it made me there was an exercise as part of it that I wound up going, oh, well, let me give this a shot. I'll give it some time. I got some time right now. It's a Saturday last weekend. And I was like, let me take a little bit of time. And then I spent like 2 or 3 hours doing a personal inventory, just all of your character flaws, defects, strengths, weaknesses, everything you can think of. I made 2 pages dedicated straight up and just wrote down all the positive on one and the negative on the other. And I think the positive came out just a little bit ahead, because I was specifically going, I really don't want to be negative. I'm trying not to be negative. I tried to make that mental switch many years ago, because I've just been around so many negative people and pessimistic attitudes and just everything. Conspiracy theories and not even like big conspiracy theories, but just your immediate reaction is that it's, Anyway, I don't want to be that way. That's not how I try to see the outlook. I have tried to make that change. It's not easy. I don't always I don't always follow that. I have to remind myself, but I'm trying. So anyway, doing that was really interesting. The inventory. This has kind of coincided with through my job. They have over the months ago, I mean, the entire time I've been there, they've had some kind of reimbursement for gym workouts or something like that. If you go to a gym, they'll pay for it, depending on how much it is and which ones you want to go to. And they had some kind of deal worked out with one that was local to the actual physical residence, which I don't live there anymore anyway. And not that I go to a gym. I work out at home. That started a few years ago as well. But that doesn't really help me. They did kind of expand that to be available for home equipment subscription stuff. And I looked into that. Was thinking about doing that, but then that was back in Wyoming where I had a basement and a lot more space to put something. I was looking into getting, I think a rowing machine would have done the best, where I could do something like that, trade off between the rowing machine and the exercise bike. That didn't happen. Maybe in the future. But anyway, it was something that I brought up at one point in our monthly meetings for the self-help program, being like, I know work does that. It would be cool if there was something for mental health as well. I'm sure that there are apps, there are programs, there's therapy, it's just more expensive. Anyway, fast forward, it took some time getting everything through, and now it's finally here. It is a thing where they reimburse up to a certain dollar amount per month in mental health. And it's so tricky there. It can really be qualified as anything that brings you inner peace or betters your mental health or anything like that, which is hard to quantify, right? But that is specifically, I am now trying this week for the first time more of the trying to dive further down in the self-help stuff into the mental health side of things specifically. So I downloaded some apps that I'm going to try out for the month and see how that goes, since they're reimbursing me for it. And there's been a lot of mental health stuff over the last few weeks, I think, is the point I'm trying to get at there. And that's good. It's something I have to work on. It's something that I struggle with. That's been the biggest part of the last few years. The going out and doing this is great. It really helps my mental health, which kind of made me realize just how far down I was. And that goes into the question for today, which I picked. Hey, can you turn back on and charge my camera, please? Thank you. What is the dumbest purchase you've ever made? And there's probably a lot of them. There's not many things that I regret buying. Usually it's not throwaway junk. But there was one time specifically where I was real down, and I knew that financial was hard, and I have used it as an outlet without realizing it before. I have so many Funko Pops, and it always was a joke of, who cares if you're depressed, buy more. Like, that was actually a joke we made of going, not feeling great, buy more Funko Pops, because it really was. I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed the hunt and the thrill. It reminded me of when I was hunting for comics before and spending money on that. I've always been pretty close to the line of broke or going further into debt in order to survive and to mentally flourish so I don't feel so bad, and spending, it's a coping mechanism. That's what we're going to talk about, coping mechanisms. And for a long time, purchasing stuff was a coping mechanism. It still very much is. But I have much better control on it now. And that was a point where, especially with the Funko Pops, it was something that I was interested in and I enjoyed. It was collecting. I like to collect the, Star Wars toys and various things like that. I don't regret any of those. I was able to purchase them at the time. I had the money because I was living rent-free for a brief period of time with someone's parents. And the money did go into that. I was saving as well. I did not spend all of it, but I had gotten more money. I'd come back and gotten a raise. And anyway, point being, I had the money and I spent it foolishly on something like that. Now, depending on how you look at it, I have no intention of ever selling. I never liked collecting for that. I know plenty of people who do, and I do look at it. I tracked it as a way to just keep an eye on that collection. Some of the things I have are worth money. I have Magic cards that are worth money. I have Funko Pops that are worth money, and by worth money I mean worth considerably more than what I paid for them. I have no interest in selling those. Those are collectibles. Those are things that I've taken, and I'm going to try to keep with me as much as I can over the moves and things like that. And I'd love to have a house to display stuff in. That would be really cool. That's my ultimate right now. That would be really, like, if I try to dream out and think of it, it would be really nice to have a way to display all of the things that I have collected over the years and purchased, because I have a lot of Star Wars toys. I have a lot of Funko Pops. I've got tons of Lego. I've got little things here and there. I don't regret any of that. None of those I think are dumb purchases. Sometimes, maybe that's not the best use of money, but I did that. And I have it, and I'm okay, clearly, where I'm at. Even if there's debt, I can pay it off. I am on a repayment plan to get everything rescheduled, and I am no longer foolishly spending. The last thing I spent money on that was not the contract money for computer stuff for this camera dream was a necessity. I bought razors and stuff last night so I can continue shaving my head as I do twice a week. I gotta get supplies on that stuff. I gotta get the soaps and the things like that to keep me from destroying my head when I shave. I still nick it, but anyway. Yeah, it's more necessity than foolish. But the dumbest thing I can ever remember, there was a point where I was so down. I clocked out of work and did not want to do anything. This was before I started doing camera stuff. This was when I was working at a job that I did not enjoy. I did not want to be there. The people made me miserable. The job made me miserable. It was very dead end. It didn't feel like it was going anywhere. It was stressful. There were fights happening. Not physical fights, although that was before the time that I worked there where one broke out from what I'd heard. But anyway, it was not a good place. It was not a good environment. And I was depressed a lot. And yes, there was a lot of going out and egging on my friend and I. We would do that to each other where we would go out and be like, I'm going to buy a pack of Magic cards. And the other person would go, I can afford to buy 2 packs. And then the first person goes, yeah, I got to get 2 as well. Well, what about 3? We'll probably get 3. And you go on, and it would just one up each other and go through it. And we did it on purpose. We knew exactly where it was. And usually I was willing to go further because to me, it's just money. Debt sucks. It's not great. It's not the ideal. It's not the goal. But at the end of the day, that's how we live. Because in this capitalism world, we don't make enough money. I don't make enough money to support the things that I do want to buy. And so I could very easily go, whatever. I'm already in debt. What's a little more? I'd rather live than, miss out on these experiences and things like that. And it's a good way to dig yourself into far debt. But we would do that with Magic cards. We would do that with Lego. We would do that with all kinds of things. We do the food. A lot of things. Those were bad. I don't regret any of those, but there was one time where it wasn't something that I was into. It wasn't something that I really found a use for. It was just straight up, I wanted to spend money to feel better. And I wound up just driving around to places I'd never been to. And I went to this was back in Georgia. It was some place. I don't even know where it was. I just wound up driving until I went, what's this place? And I went into a store. It was huge. It was a humongous department store that was completely off-brand, not big name anything. And they just had random everything. And I wound up finding some cheap. It was all overseas, very cheaply made. Nothing was good, but it was not that much money. And I found some train set. And I was like, I've never been into trains, toy model trains, but this is cool. And I'm interested in this. And I'd rather spend the money doing this than being miserable doing nothing. And I spent like $50 buying some small train set that was just like a train, a couple of cars, and it had batteries. I think it lit up, it went around, it was junk. I used it, I set it up, I was excited about it. I used it one time, maybe twice, but I think that was it. I didn't find any use for it. It was absolutely just a coping mechanism, purchase something. I don't fully regret it because it was kind of a tipping point for me, but at the same time, it was a dumb purchase. The point of the question. It was absolutely a coping mechanism. I should not have done it. I knew better. In my head, I was telling myself I don't care, but I know better and I shouldn't be doing this, and I did it anyway. And I did, and I bought it, and I don't have it anymore. It was something where I was like, I can let go of this. I don't need to remember the memory. I know the lesson I learned. I don't need to. This is why I don't just randomly spend money. This is why I always think about it. Even when I was convincing myself, at least for a while there, I don't know if it was after that point or before that point. I think it was after that point where I started going, all right, anytime I spend money at all, I'm going to pull cash out as well. Because I wasn't using a credit card for much at the time. No, I wasn't. I wasn't really, I hadn't gotten to that point where I realized I could be making money on the purchases that I make anyway as reward points with credit cards. Credit cards were used as a backup just in case, have it there, and, something like that. At that point, I was using my debit card for everything, which changed not too long after that. But when I used my debit card, I'd always pull cash out. And I would try to do half of whatever I was spending. I think I started out with small purchases, going exactly. If I was going to spend $20, I was going to pull out $20. I didn't wind up doing that. I went halfsies on it. So everything I wanted to buy, I would need to have in my pocket 75%. Nope. What? Math. I would need to pull out, if I was going to spend $40, I would pull out 20. So I would be spending 60. So I would have to budget for that in my head. If I was going to spend money on a toy for myself or for anything that was unnecessary, that was not a food or livable expense, anything extra like that, I started pulling out cash. And then that cash just became savings. And that kind of got me to a point where I was regularly saving money. It was better than nothing. It wasn't just wasting it, but still not the best possible use. Anyway, I saved the money that way for a while. I think I deposited all that cash at one point. I do keep some cash as an emergency, but I almost never use it for anything, and I don't do that anymore. Now I save money out of every paycheck. Now I have there's an automatic savings account. There's a whole thing there. I am always, like, it is just worked into the budget no matter what, unless we are hard pressed in my budget for finances where I have to pull from something else. And at that, I try to pare down everything else I can first. I always save money. I try to save $100 a month, $1,200 a year. It's not a whole lot. I wish I could do more. I used to do more, but we had to cut back when we moved here because finances. Anyway. Yes, I save money out of every paycheck. I get paid weekly anyway, so I have an automatic deposit going into there. I get little bonuses, and I'm kind of getting money off of that. It's a lot more than the savings account at a bank would be through this app that has kind of a lottery system to it. So it's a fun little thing there. More so, I was already putting money into savings anyway. This just kind of helped with that because I don't have to think about it. I don't even think about it. I know that the money's in there. It's deposited every week. It's not something I check on my bank account balance when I'm doing that stuff, and I total up all my bills with all that stuff. I keep a running total, so I know exactly how much is in my account at all times, and I know how much I can afford to pay 2 credit cards to pay off. Like, everything's budgeted months in advance, basically, so I never run into an emergency situation where I have to pull from savings to cover anything. I've never had to do that. I've always been on top of it to the point where I have had the money before, and I plan it far enough in advance that I can make any adjustments that I need to. So I'm not too hard on myself about finances. I know some people who are much worse, and I don't try to look at the negative of other people to bring myself up, but it doesn't hurt when I go, well, I've only overdrawn my bank account once, and that was by accident. I've never had to close a bank account with anything like that. Like, I'm in fairly good standing there. The only reason my credit score is lower on the lower side is just because of the amount of debt compared to the amount of money that I make. And starting this whole dream of cameras and buying bigger and video and the entire thing did not help anything there. But, that's the dream, and I keep it under control at the very least. I was able to refinance that one loan for a much lower interest rate, which saved me a ton over time. And hopefully I'll be able to continue doing that. Or did you just shut off on me while I was recording? Sure did, didn't you? This thing got too hot. Okay, well, I think that was all I had to do anyway. Sorry that this is audio only at this point. We'll just go ahead and pull the camera down. I should have known it was sitting in the sun, even though I tried to put something behind it. That's all that I had going on. That answered the question. What was the dumbest purchase? It was a train set that I gave to my sister when I moved out of Georgia anyway. I no longer have it. I don't need it. I'm not using it for anything. And I was trying to cut down as much space as possible before moving across the country. So that was something that I was able to give away, and it was no longer a concern. I am thinking about getting another camera. I'm thinking about using my phone as an extra camera option. Like, this thing just got too hot and it shut off. So then I could switch to my phone, which I can do. I don't have my phone on me right now at this second. But anyway. Whoops. There it is. Let's see. We answered the question. I am grabbing it to pull up the video camera so I can put it there, so I can do this. I'm not going to bother put it in the mount because I'm just going to wrap up. But now I'm recording there. Yes, that's another thing that I thought about as a purchase. I'd like to get a different phone for other reasons, but this one works just great for video. It's not the best on the other qualities of it, but if I purchase a new phone, I don't know. It's something in the air. At some point I might do that. It'll require more money, but I got taxes. I just filed my taxes the other day. It's too early for them to actually go through, but I did my taxes, and assuming nothing's wrong, now that I've done a whole other source of income and taxes and paying throughout the year as the contract work, that's a whole new aspect for me, a whole new thing. I think I'm getting a refund. Shouldn't get a refund. Better to be at zero, right? That's what I've learned. Because that means that you didn't pay them money that they just held on to throughout the year. But Anyway, I think that's all I have to talk about right now today. I went over everything that I did. I answered a personal question. I've said it before, but if you have any questions related to wildlife, related to cameras, related to personal things, anything at all, willing to start a conversation, whatever that is, I put my email in the description. It's just my name, Michael, at the website that I own, Quoft, QWOFT.com, and I put that on there and whatnot. By all means. I have answered them before. I have answered one so far on the camera. I mean, I did a Q&A back when I started, but specifically I had somebody reach out to me over email, and we discussed that in a previous video. Anyway, I think that's all I got. Talked about everything that's been going on. Talked about what the personal side of things, and talked about coping mechanisms. One of mine has been spending money, making myself feel better with little purchases, and I've had to come to a stop to that, and I do much better now. I still judge myself extremely harshly on pretty much any purchase ever, and that's not always a good thing, but that kind of is what it is. So, until next time,